Welcome to Salem Witch Trials Daily. This is Josh Hutchinson. Today, Friday, August 19th, 1692, 5 more innocent people were hanged in Salem.
This is Sarah Jack. Thank you for joining us each day as we walk through 1692's Salem witch hunt records, one day at a time.
The story of the Salem witch trials began in mid-January 1692 with a mysterious illness that struck the young girls in the household of Salem Village's minister, Samuel Parris. When a local doctor declared the girls were under an evil hand, the community's fears of diabolical witchcraft were ignited.
What began with questioning of a few marginalized women quickly snowballed into a community-wide panic, and by March, the accusations had spread to respected church members like Rebecca Nurse and even a 4-year-old child, Dorothy Good.
To deal with the overflowing jails, Governor William Phips established the special Court of Oyer and Terminer, appointing William Stoughton as Chief Justice to preside over the trials. The court held its first session on June 2nd, leading to the execution of Bridget Bishop on June 10th.
Emboldened by local ministers urging a speedy and vigorous prosecution, and the court's willingness to accept spectral evidence, the magistrates relentlessly continued their deadly work. This unstoppable machinery of colonial justice ultimately led the community to the horrifying events of its first mass execution back on July 19, 1692.
Between the July 19th and August 19th executions, the witch hunt in Andover erupted from the single isolated case of Martha Carrier into a massive, self-reinforcing panic targeting a family network.
In Andover, the witch hunt mapped directly onto a single family tree, the descendants of Edmund and Anne Ingalls of Lynn, linking the Carrier and Dane families.
Martha Carrier was their granddaughter, and Elizabeth Johnson Jr. was their great-granddaughter. As the hunt moved through Andover, it traveled straight down these family branches, turning kin against kin.
The pressure was intense enough to force family members to literally betray one another in a life and death situation. Martha Carrier's young children were coerced into confessing and testifying against their own mother.
A cousin of Martha, 22-year-old Elizabeth Johnson Jr., was pressured into claiming she was baptized by the devil in Martha's well, and that she and Martha's children had afflicted local girls.
This family network was legally and financially shattered by these events. While Martha Carrier was hanged on August 19th, her children and cousin Elizabeth languished in crowded, filthy jails.
The Andover witch panic was triggered in mid-July 1692 when Salem Village afflicted girls arrived to diagnose the sick Elizabeth Phelps Ballard, quickly leading to the arrest of the elderly Anne Foster, whose confession terrified the colony by claiming there were 305 active witches in the area.
By late July, this confession sparked a chain reaction of family arrests as the panic swept through Foster's own household, leading to the arrests and confessions of her daughter and granddaughter, both named Mary Lacey, with the younger Mary sensationalizing the hunt by implicating their neighbor Martha Carrier as the future Queen of Hell.
Tensions hit a fever pitch when Elizabeth Phelps Ballard died on July 27th. This was a terrifying milestone because she was the first woman to die as an afflicted person during the witch trials, and this convinced locals that these witches could actually kill.
In early August, shortly before August 10th, the net widened further to jail Elizabeth Johnson Jr. alongside Carrier's young children, Sarah and Thomas Carrier. Ultimately, this harrowing month-long escalation tragically culminated on August 19th, 1692, with the hanging of Martha Carrier, alongside 4 condemned men, George Burroughs, John Procter, George Jacob Sr., and John Willard.
On this day, we pause to solemnly remember them. We honor their lives and enduring legacies.
They were ordinary community members caught in a tragic web of fear, false accusations, and superstition, yet they met their brutal fates while steadfastly maintaining their innocence. All maintained their innocence. We speak their names today to recognize their humanity, restore their dignity, and ensure the truth of their innocence is never forgotten.
This execution brought the total number of witch hunt deaths to 14 by August 19th. Sarah Osburn, Sarah Good's infant daughter, and Roger Toothaker had died in jail. Bridget Bishop had been hanged June 10th, and 5 other innocent people were executed July 19th.
Contemporary witch trial critic Robert Calef reported a vivid first-person account of these hanging events in his book, More Wonders of the Invisible World.
According to Calef, the 5 who were hanged today were carted through the streets of Salem to the place of execution. Before George Burroughs was hanged, he spoke of his innocence in a solemn and serious manner, which Calef believed all onlookers admired.
Calef wrote that, quote, his prayer, which he concluded by repeating the Lord's Prayer, was so well worded and uttered with such composedness and such, at least seeming, fervency of spirit, as was very affecting, and drew tears from many, so it seemed to some that the spectators would hinder the execution.
But the afflicted persons cried out that the devil was telling George what to say, and when he was turned off the ladder, Boston minister Cotton Mather, on horseback, addressed the crowd, declaring that George wasn't even ordained as a minister and reminding people of George's guilt.
As reported by Calef, Cotton Mather said, "The devil has often been transformed into an angel of light." These words seemingly calmed the crowd.
When George was cut down from the gallows, he was dragged to a hole between the rocks and thrown in a shallow grave just 2 feet deep. His shirt and pants were removed, and another executed man's trousers were put on him. But he was jammed in with John Willard and Martha Carrier, and one of his hands, his chin, and a foot were left uncovered.
Calef wrote that John Procter pleaded very hard at execution for a little respite of time, saying that he was not fit to die, but it was not granted. He begged Salem minister Nicholas Noyes to pray with him, but this request was also denied. I can just feel his panic. How terrible.
Yeah, he's at his life's end, and he doesn't want it to be that way. He loves living. And I mean, to beg the minister and the minister says no, that really seems like an extra bit of harshness. That's salt in the wounds. That's just brutal. But Calef did not comment on the last words of John Willard, Martha Carrier, or George Jacobs Sr. Tragically, as is the case with most of those convicted of witchcraft in Salem, their final remarks were simply not recorded.
Join us for more tomorrow on Salem Witch Trials Daily and every day as we continue to follow the dark and tragic events of 1692 day by day. Please join us at our other podcasts, The Thing About the Salem Witch Trials and The Thing About Witch Hunts.